Welcome to RateFrame, the Warframe build game show where you always win and the host always loses. The rules are simple. 1. You vote on a Warframe. 2. Once the vote is cast, I cannot make any changes to that build. No last minute changes, no researching the meta, raw and unedited. 3. You judge the build in the comments below, and don't forget to vote for the Warframe you want to see next. What's up, guys? Welcome back to RateFrame. We are going to be doing Nekros today. Nekros is the winner of the poll of the voting that occurred in the comment section of the last video. Once again, Nekros won by a single point, so if you want your favorite Warframe to be featured in the next video, you gotta make sure to get in those comments. We are going to start by going through all of the mods that I have on here for the entire build. Now, it isn't a very sophisticated build, but I did get comments on the last video saying that I really need to go through the mods for each of the selections that I have here. Now, I didn't actually have a build for Nekros that was set up before the vote occurred, so kind of just threw it together, things that I thought would be thematically interesting should I ever start pursuing a build. First off, I am going to... Nope, I did want to have Durga on the build because the Kavat is my standard just because of the ability that gives you luck to have better drops and potential crits. So this is the Nekros build that I set up. Pay no mind to the names up here. That's from before, that's from the past. This isn't a build that I really use for farming anymore. Don't remember what that ability was called, but I've subsumed it with Gloom for a very specific reason. Because I'm going to want enemies to be slow for this build. You may not need this because of a skill issue, but my own skill demands that I have some slowdown for this build for how it's going to work. That means Soul Punch is back, but I'm almost never going to use it. Terrify is going to be frequently used. Shadows of the Dead whenever I have the extra energy to spare and get in a big fight. Let's go through it. Energy Siphon for more energy. Cunning Drift to get that extra ability range. Overextended for more ability range. Prime Vigor just because I wasn't sure which one I wanted to invest in the most, health or shield, and so I just decided to split the difference. Streamline to make my abilities able to be cast more frequently. Flow to have more energy to cast the abilities. You're starting to see a pattern. You're going to be casting Terrify a lot because it is your main damage negation and crowd control to extend your survivability with Nekros, or at least by my understanding of Nekros. As we see with Transient Fortitude, we get extra ability strength. Ability duration goes down, but we fix that with Mult efficiency in the Arcane because we have a pretty good amount of shields and we're going to be crowd controlling to get people off of us by not letting them shoot at us while terrified. This is a good thing to have to compensate for the negative duration. Boreal's Hatred to increase shield and ability efficiency, reach more range, stretch more range. Basically maxed out for range here. Point is, I want to be able to get an entire room, an entire area terrified, and I want to be able to have that entire room slowed down with Gloom so that I can create for myself a shooting gallery. Now, the primary that we chose is Dread, mainly because I thought that it would be thematically appropriate, but as you can see, though I have a very awesome Riven for Dread specifically. Big crit chance, big damage, and extra damage to Grineer. This is kind of exclusively becoming a Grineer solver. This is a build for fighting Grineer and not much else. There is still room on here because I was still building it out before I got to the recording, before the vote actually settled, to put the Smite mod or the Bane mod, Primed Bane of Grineer, would do a lot to bring this a long way, but I wanted to prioritize having that base damage, having that speed so that I could fire more frequently. We actually aren't going to be using the charge shot because the quick shot is going to be fairly decent enough. As you can see, our crit chance is above 100%. That means our crit damage is going to double the 5.4 times more, so 10.8 times more damage, and split flights in order to create even more multi-shot and create more instances of that damage happening. However, to get split flights to be working most efficiently, because it only lasts for 2 seconds even at max upgrade, which I think is a little stingy, is that you need to be using the quick shot. Even with more speed, having the charge shot isn't going to get you to the full multi-shot bonus that you want out of this, because you're going to need to basically charge and hit every single one of those in a quarter of a second, which is the amount of charge time you have. A little bit more than that, but you know, that's actually a pretty high ask in terms of skill, and as you will see, my skill with a bow, bad. So I have Infected Clip on here. I have Primary Blight in order to get the extra crit damage and extra multi-shot from doing infected, for doing toxin damage. You'll notice that my status, not so great. The only improvement to status chance is coming from Hammer Shot here, but that gives us just enough because that 36% is actually going to have multiple instances once Split Flight starts going, which means we'll have more than one opportunity to get that bonus from Primary Blight, which will increase multi-shot, which will increase the instances, which will hopefully keep Primary Blight online, so long as I am constantly hitting people with the bow. Now, moving on to my kit gun, Sidearm Robin's Iron. This is just built to be a pretty decent damaging weapon, built with cold damage, secondary shiver to get even more cold damage. Trick mag is unnecessary, I just needed something for the slot. I might change that. Residual shock, it's there, I don't think about it. Main thing that this sidearm does is the auger mods. If I have auger on the Warframe, great. If I don't, doesn't matter. Just getting a little bit more shield every time you cast an ability, especially with Nekros, who is going to be casting abilities frequently. That's good for survivability. That's the main reason Robin's Iron is on here. You're going to see that in a lot of builds when I really don't have a build planned for that Warframe. And then finally, to fit the death theming, we have the Thalys, the heavy scythe. This was doing a lot of the heavy lifting, mainly because its Incarnon is pretty good for attacking entire rooms at once, which is why it is built out for reach. So we have Pressure Point for damage, Gladiator Might for crit damage, Blood Rush for crit, Primed Reach in order to increase the range, Sacrificial Steel, increase crit chance, slash and status. We have Weeping Wounds to increase the status chance, and then we have Amalgam Organ Shatter in order to increase crit damage and make our crit attack come out faster. Thalys's one drawback is that it is pretty slow. It has less than 1 attack speed. It's going to feel sluggish no matter what you do, unless you're playing on Valkyrie or something. Melee Duplicate is here in order to get us double damage from base crit hits, because that's pretty much the main thing we're going to be hitting until Blood Rush gets fully stacked, but it will also keep getting reset. Both of these will keep getting reset when you use the Incarnon transformation, but hopefully you can build that back up pretty fast, because not only do we have that +3 range on what is a base 2.8 range, but when we do the Incarnon transformation, you'll see the very first thing that happens is that we get even more range and a nice boost to attack speed. This is basically designed to get the damaging shards that come from Incarnon's transformation to be hitting as many of the enemies that are in my terrified slow range as possible. And then everything else is bonus. Status effects increase the range even more. Part of why we wanted some status on Dread, part of why we want Weeping Wounds on Thalys, building it out to be both a crit stick and a status stick, which makes no sense from traditional melee builds ideas, but we need that status in order to increase the range, in order to increase the combo count even more, in order to make that work. Initial combo up to keep the critical chance and the status chance up with our combo count, decreasing the amount of combo necessary in order to transform into Incarnon so that we aren't wasting our time as much when we're hitting enemies, and then the augment to how these damaging shards go. I prefer the explosive growth. Shards grow whenever a new shard is created up to 3 times. Fully grown shards erupt out of the embedded enemies, dealing 2 times damage and impaling them on the spot. This is the one I prefer because, as we're going to be hitting many things all at once in an area, it's going to have many opportunities to create a new shard, thus growing all of the shards in the area, thus basically turning the range of my gloom, the range of the reach of the weapon, into just a spot that explodes. You're probably not going to see too many actual impalements and the enemy crowd controlled and stuck in place from this build. So that is everything. Oh, except for the drip. We haven't analyze the drip here. Now, this is still from my old color aesthetic that I was using for a little while. Purple and cyan, or sometimes indigo and cyan, sometimes magenta and cyan. Essentially pairing these two colors, which are rarely placed together, gives it a very nice cool vibe that I can change slightly by adjusting the warmth of whatever color I'm using. I can go for something a little hotter, something a little cooler with how I want to range the purple, just by choosing a purple that is either a little more blue or a little more red, but I like hitting right in the middle there. And then rather than go with the standard black or something like that, I use brown as a neutral color because I think it kind of pops out the sort of earth tone aesthetic of it, creates both this earth tone that is reminiscent of death as a concept and brings out the allows the cool, ethereal, mysterious colors of the blue and the purple to really stand out against it while benefiting from that tone. Other than that, I don't really have things colored for the weapons to go with the build. You saw that Day of the Dead skin, it was just black and red because, well, you know, why not? First thing we're going to do is we're going to show it off fighting some Grineer. Thank goodness that the Void, that the Zeramin is occupied by the Grineer right now, because it means I have some stronger than Grineer than just Sedna to have to deal with. And we'll see how well I can do. Chances are not very well. All right, so here's the main reason that I'm not going to do very well. Naruman is the focus school that I'm choosing in order to keep the combo chance up as much as I can. So the main reason that I am probably not the best person to do this build is because, though I used to be very good with the bow, I haven't been using the bow very much for quite a long time, and so my skill with the bow has gone very far down. Now, if you're playing on PC, if you have a keyboard mouse setup, then this is going to be less of an issue for you because you have one-to-one input control with how much distance you are crossing the screen with your reticle, and so you can have a lot more accuracy when playing with the mouse and keyboard setup. But with a dual analog stick setup, that equation changes quite a lot because my aim control isn't one-to-one, it's acceleration. You know, hard for me to explain while I'm in the middle of trying to complete a mission, but essentially the input of a stick is constant. Like if I hold it a little bit, I'll move a little bit. If I hold a lot, I'll move a lot. It's an acceleration, essentially, rather than a direct movement. And you can get to the point where it feels like direct movement, but when you're trying to do precision things, like aim headshots frequently with Saito 9 as a build, it's going to be more difficult. It's not that it's impossible. It's not like that someone can't do that. That someone just isn't me right now because I've gotten worse at the video game. This is one of my least favorite rooms because I hate that they're gonna jump down here in order to maintain their pathing for finding cover. So actually clearing the room is a little annoying. Why? I am lost. I have actually gotten myself lost on the Zeramin. I haven't been on this tile set very much recently. We're just going to go out the way we came. Oh, there's a Thrax here. So I'm going to switch to using the Thallus for a little bit. I think the Thrax is stuck under the floor. Alright, that's fine. He can be there. So we're just going to use the scythe for a little bit to see if we can build it up and show off how that looks. One of the main issues I was having when trying to set up this build for Nekros was that whenever I would use Terrify, having the enemies run away from you rather than follow their predictable patterns when running towards you made it so I was having a lot more trouble hitting with the Dread bow at all. And so that is kind of why I did this. Using Thalas to have something that doesn't really require aim at all and covers a wide area, but I do think that at the end of the day, Dread does more damage per target. So it really just depends on the priorities. Are we clearing out a very large room, running in, popping Terrify, but making sure that they can't flee from you using Gloom? Or are we trying to get at one specific target? So as you can see, other than the Exodus units, enemies are pretty much just popping as the shards start taking effect within their range. One thing that is difficult here with maintaining Gloom is that it doesn't have very good energy economy. Now I get a little bit from drops, but this build doesn't really have a way to generate drops. So I'm not exactly sure what to do to improve it in terms of energy economy. I think it has a pretty good setup for doing what it's supposed to do, but other than just drop Gloom and start building up some energy again, not sure what to do. I don't want to change the Nairman school in order to have the energy well from whatever school it was. I don't know. I forget. Because I do want to have the slowly decaying combo count for using this Incarnon, right? So I don't know what the solution is there. I mean, the solution could very well just be that I keep dropping squad energy restores, but that's not really in the spirit of doing a build now, is it? So as you can see, Thalas, pretty much a star. It does what I need it to do. But it does have limits because I need everyone to be clumped together in order for it to really shine, even with the extra range. Alright, and that is everything. So as you can see, not the fastest, not the slowest, but a pretty interesting concept of basically creating a area of effect which is guaranteed to prevent you from taking damage and give you everything you need to deal a lot of damage to anyone in the circle. Now my question, which is something that I haven't tried out yet, is what kind of mission type is this actually most appropriate for? And you're not going to like this. I think the best mission type might actually be mobile defense, which is upsetting because mobile defense are kind of boring missions. So let's do a survival mission here, and let's just check on its survivability in a non-ideal environment, facing off against the Murmur instead of the Grineer, so I don't get my extra damage from the Riven, to see what this is like on other enemy types. So I'm probably going to cut through a few of the empty moments of running this survival mission, just because you watching me do a survival for 5 minutes is probably going to be a little bit boring. Everything has been explained, but anything interesting that I want to share or that I want to talk about, I'll probably include that as well in the final cut of the video. Can we even? No. See, because of my bad aim and the low damage at the start of Dread, getting these weak point targets enemies in the Murmur is basically impossible. That's such a struggle. You basically have just to rely on dealing the damage here. And now we have a Void Rig to deal with, which I don't think I'm going to be terribly good at. Let's see. Pretty much all I can rely on here is distracting him with the crowd control. Oh, where'd he go? I've lost track of him. I'm sure he didn't die. Maybe he did. Alright, another negative about trying to fight the Murmur with Nekros is that if you happen to be standing in the wrong spot while you're doing your ultimate, you're just basically eating a bunch of damage, aren't you? That's upsetting. Oh yeah, I'm ready to return. I think this went pretty poorly in terms of how fighting the Murmur goes. I don't know. I don't think this is a very good build. I can explain a lot of why I want it the way it is, why I built it the way it is, but I don't think its effectiveness is all there. You let me know in the comments, how can this be improved? Now, when I say improved, what I mean to say is I don't want you to tell me to change any of the weapon choices here. I want you to mainly focus on the spirit of the build, see how it can be changed in order to make this more effective. By more effective, I don't mean switching to a completely different Nekros build that is more in line with other things the Warframe is designed to do. I don't mean make me change it to a farming build, because that ain't gonna happen. I don't main Nekros. Sorry, Nekros mains. Not gonna be my thing. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. Let me know what you think of this build in the comments below. You can rate it on any factors you want. Rate it 0 to 10. Give me a actual critique or review. Talk about the drip. Talk about what mod should be, how the mod should be changed up, what should be done in order to make this build better. And that's it for the build. Judge it and cast your votes in the comments. Like and subscribe to support the channel, and I wish you some happy building.